The stars were quiet outside the windows of the UN's Horizon, Earth's most advanced diplomatic ship. Inside the sleek vessel, everything was calm, but the people inside were tense. Commander Elias Rourke, a tall man with gray at his temples and sharp eyes, stood on the bridge, staring at the holographic display of the alien ship approaching. It wasn't just any alien ship. It belonged to the Virilan Empire, powerful and mysterious civilization that humans had only recently discovered. Their leader, Queen Ziriveth, was known across many systems as ruthless, proud, and never forgiving insults. Today was supposed to be historic. A first meeting between the Virelans and humans, a handshake across stars, peace, trade, and maybe even friendship. But Commander Rourke wasn't smiling. We're approaching the rendezvous point. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Arya Chen, said quietly, "Alien vessel Virilan's Wrath is holding position." "Of course it is," Rourke muttered. "Even their ships sound like they're scowling." He turned toward the rest of the crew. "Remember, this is not a battle. We are here to talk. No sudden moves. No surprises. Let me do the talking." Everyone nodded. The room was full of trained diplomats, linguists, and military experts, but still, there was a nervous feeling in the air. The Virulans were unlike any species humanity had met before. Their biology was insect-like, with tall, armored forms, glowing eyes, and voices that echoed. They believed deeply in honor, order, and the absolute authority of their queen. As the Virilan shuttle docked with the Horizon, the lights dimmed slightly and everyone stood at attention. The airlock opened with a hiss, and out stepped Queen Zerevith. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with shining black armor that looked grown, not worn. Her eyes glowed like blue fire, and her forearms moved with slow, deliberate grace. Behind her, 2 guards stood silently, holding weapons shaped like spears but humming with energy. Rourke stepped forward with a respectful bow. "Welcome aboard the UN's Horizon, Your Majesty. We are honored by your presence." The Queen looked at him. Her voice was smooth, but deep and cold. "Are you the one who speaks for your kind?" "I am," Rourke said. She stared a moment longer, then gave the smallest nod. "Then we shall see if your kind are worthy of our attention." That was a good start, cold, but not hostile. Rourke relaxed slightly as he led her to the main meeting chamber. But things didn't go as planned. The meeting room was circular, designed to show equality. A round table sat in the center, with chairs adjusted for both human and alien forms. On the table, a display showed the symbols of both Earth and the Virilan Empire. As everyone took their places, one of the human diplomats, Ensign Daniel Reyes, reached to place a small glass of water in front of the Queen. It was a gesture of peace. Water was valuable in many parts of the galaxy, and offering it showed goodwill. But as he set it down, the glass made a soft clink against her metal-like table surface. A strange sound followed. It wasn't loud, but it was sharp. Queen Zereveth's eyes narrowed. She looked at the glass, then at Reyes. "You dare present me water with your own hand, without ceremony, without permission?" Reyes froze, eyes wide. "I am sorry, I didn't mean any." Silence. Everyone stood still. The Queen slowly turned to Rourke. Her voice was a low growl now. "Do you know the consequences of messing with me, human?" The room chilled. The translator repeated her words in perfect English, though they barely needed translation. The threat was clear. Commander Rourke stood, slowly, with all respect. "Your Majesty." Ensign Reyes meant no insult. "In our culture, sharing water is a peaceful custom, a way of welcoming guests." "I am not a guest," the Queen said. "I am a queen. You should have known our ways before calling us to your ship." Rourke took a breath. He knew they had studied Virilan culture for months, but this level of reaction was beyond anything they had expected. "I apologize," he said calmly. "We meant only peace." The Queen didn't reply. She stood up. Her guard stepped forward at once. "Your peace is fragile, like your minds, like your bones." She turned to leave, but before stepping out, she looked back over her shoulder. "Know this, Elias Rock. This meeting is over, and your people have made a dangerous enemy." Then she was gone. Back in the command center, the mood was heavy. No one spoke for several minutes. Finally, Arya Chen whispered, "What now?" Rourke didn't answer right away. He stared at the empty docking bay where the Virilan shuttle had disappeared. "We prepare," he said at last. "For war?" Someone asked. Rourke shook his head. "For everything. For war, for peace, for something in between. We don't run, not now, not ever." The stars outside didn't look so quiet anymore. They looked sharp like knives waiting in the dark. That night, Rourke recorded his report to Earth Command, double quotes, ... Queen Ziriveth has taken offense. The cause was cultural misunderstanding. but the consequences may be severe. I take full responsibility. He paused. But I believe this is not the end. I believe we now know what kind of opponent we're dealing with. The Virulents want fear, they expect submission, but they won't get it from us. They'll get respect, diplomacy, maybe even friendship. He leaned closer to the recorder. But if they demand fear, they chose the wrong species. As the Horizon began its slow return to Earth, Commander Rourke looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, Queen Zirivith was already preparing her next move, and so was he. Because humanity had just been challenged, and humanity never backed down. Commander Elias Rourke stood in the Earth Council chamber, a large circular room deep beneath the surface of New Geneva. Around him sat the most powerful leaders and advisors from all over Earth: scientists, generals, diplomats, and even representatives from Mars and lunar colonies. The room was quiet as Rourke finished explaining what had happened aboard the UN's Horizon. The first meeting with the Virulent Empire had gone terribly wrong. A small mistake, a glass of water offered without permission, had offended Queen Ziriveth. She had left with a warning, her voice cold and sharp. Do you know the consequences of messing with me, human? Now Earth had a decision to make. After a moment of silence, a thin man in a dark suit spoke. Director Hall, head of Earth Intelligence, tapped a pen against the table. She's testing us, he said. Virulents have done this before with other species. They don't want peace. They want obedience. A general nodded. So we fight. But Rourke shook his head. No, not yet. Fighting them on their terms would be a mistake. They expect fear. They expect surrender. Or war. Let's give them something they don't expect. Like what? Asked the president of Mars. Rourke leaned forward. His voice was calm, but firm. Let's show them that humans are more than soldiers. We're thinkers, builders. We fight differently, we adapt. If they want to play games in the shadows, then let's show them we know how to play, too. The council didn't smile, but many heads nodded. And so began Operation Iron Whisperer, plan not of missiles or fleets, but of quiet moves, careful messages, and invisible hands. Weeks passed. Across the stars, the Virulent Empire watched and waited for humanity's reaction. They expected fear. They expected begging. What they got was silence. But under that silence, things were moving. In a quiet asteroid station orbiting Tau Ceti, a group of human hackers broke into the outer layers of Virulent communication systems. They didn't shut anything down. That would be too obvious. Instead, they slipped false information into news channels, more lies that made the Queen's rule look weaker than it was. On a trade planet called Corellos, Earth diplomats met with smaller alien races under Virulent control. They offered better deals, fairer laws, and protection. Slowly, quietly, those races began to drift toward Earth's side. Even Virulent soldiers began noticing strange things: supply lines delayed, orders changing without explanation, whispers of rebellion growing in distant outposts, and all of it was happening without a single human ship firing a shot. Back in her throne chamber aboard the Imperial Spire, Queen Zirivith was furious. This is no accident, she said, pacing in slow circles. Our systems are being twisted. Our allies speak with uncertain voices. Someone is moving in the dark. Her advisor, Lord Cavax, clicked his claws nervously. We suspect human involvement. Their style is ... unpredictable, quiet but clever. The Queen's eyes burned blue. They think they can hide behind shadows. We are the Empire, we are order. They will learn what it means to challenge us. She turned toward a floating screen showing the human commander's face. Elias Rourke, she whispered. You are no soldier. You are a mind, and minds can be broken. Meanwhile, Rourke was back aboard a new ship, the Aegis, a stealth cruiser made for operations just like this. He stood with Arya Chen, watching coded transmissions from deep space. So far, Arya said, we've got 7 Virulent trade partners leaning toward neutrality. That's a good start. Rourke nodded. Good, but keep it quiet. We don't want to push too hard yet. She looked at him, curious. You think she's planning a strike? I'd be disappointed if she wasn't, Rourke replied. Zirivith doesn't like being ignored. He wasn't wrong. Only days later, a massive Virulent fleet entered the Delta Persei sector near the human colony on New Avalon. No warnings, no messages, just warships. But when they arrived, they found more than they expected. Human forces were already waiting, not in great numbers, but with smart defenses, camouflaged railguns, EMP mines hidden in asteroid fields, and drones with unpredictable AI patterns. The Virulents attacked, and they lost. The Battle of New Avalon became famous. It wasn't because humans destroyed the enemy completely, they didn't, but they fought smart. They made every shot count, and they made the Virulens bleed for every inch. When the Virulent fleet finally pulled back, their commanders were shaken. Back on her throne ship, Queen Zirovith was quiet as she watched the battle footage. The human strategy was clear: trap, confuse, outthink, not brute force. Brains. She stared at Rourke's face again. He is not trying to defeat me, she said softly. He is trying to teach me something. Lord Cavax was silent. The Queen stood. Her voice was colder than ice. Prepare. A message, she said, to Commander Elias Rourke. Hours later, aboard the Unzegas, a message came through. No encryption, no tricks. It was direct. A holler of Queen Ziroveth filled the room. She stood tall, proud, but her tone was different. Commander Rourke, she said, you have made your move. Now I make mine. She raised her chin slightly. I challenge you to a formal duel. The room went silent. Arya whispered, a duel. She wants to fight you herself. Rourke didn't answer right away. He walked to the window and looked at the stars. It's not a fight, he said. It's a test. A challenge of leaders, of ideas. She still thinks she can win by proving she's stronger, Arya said. Rourke nodded slowly. Then it's time we show her that strength isn't always about force. He looked back at the hull of Queen Xeraveth. Challenge accepted. That's the Unzegas prepared for a diplomatic journey to a neutral planet for the duel. The galaxy watched with breath held. A queen, known for her fear and power. A commander known for his patience and cleverness. The next meeting would not be between armies, it would be between minds. And the game of shadows had just reached its next level. The planet Daleth floated in space like a polished, dual-neutral ground, untouched by war. For centuries, it had been a place of peace, where leaders met when weapons failed, and only words remained. Now it would witness something far more unique, a duel of minds between Queen Ziroveth of the Virulan Empire and Commander Elias Rourke of Earth. No armies, no warships, only strategy, willpower, and leadership. The arena was not a battlefield but a circular hall made of smooth crystal and light. It shimmered with energy and was watched closely by diplomats, media, and heirs from across the galaxy. Each trial in the duel would test something different: decision-making, ethics, logic, and influence. Inside the waiting chamber, Commander Rourke stood silently. His dark uniform was crisp, but his mind was focused. He wasn't here to win a prize. He was here to prove something: that humanity was not weak, not foolish, and certainly not afraid. Beside him, Lieutenant Arya Chen checked the protocols one last time. She agreed to the format, she said, reading from the screen. 5 challenges, 1 each for leadership, logic, morality, diplomacy, and creativity. Judges are neutral. AI from Daleth itself, Rourke nodded. Good. No cheating. She have to play fair. Arya hesitated. Do you trust her to follow the rules? Rourke gave a small smile. I trust her pride. That's stronger than any law. A deep chime rang through the hall. It was time. Queen Ziroveth entered first. She wore ceremonial armor black and silver, shaped like wings and blades. Her 4 arms moved slowly, gracefully. The crowd of alien observers stood in silence as she took her place. Rourke entered next, unarmed and without armor. Just a simple, dark coat and calm eyes. The 2 leaders stood across from each other in the center of the crystal arena. A glowing ring formed around them, and a soft voice spoke from above. Round 1. Leadership. Both contestants were shown the same scenario: a colony in crisis, fires, food shortages, rising panic, thousands of lives at risk. They had limited resources, only enough to solve 2 out of 3 problems. Their task was to make decisions and keep order. Ziroveth acted swiftly. She saved the power grid and locked down the colony using fear and discipline. Her method was cold but effective. The panic stopped, but many citizens felt crushed under her rule. Rourke took longer. He called for help from nearby ships, shared resources across groups, and trusted local leaders to organize their own zones. His colony didn't come as fast, but in the end, it came together. People felt stronger, like they were part of the solution. The AI judge spoke. Round 1, victory, Commander Rourke. Ziroveth's eyes narrowed, but she said nothing. Round 2, logic. The trial was a simulation, an asteroid puzzle. Pieces of broken rock spinning toward a planet, with limited engines to deflect them. The challenge saved the most lives using the fewest moves. Ziroveth solved the puzzle with military precision. Her commands were perfect, her calculations exact. The asteroids were cleared in minutes. Rourke paused before acting. He used the engines in a strange pattern, one that confused the audience. But as the pieces shifted, his trick became clear. He used the asteroids to bounce off each other, saving more fuel and clearing a path twice as wide. The judges took their time. Round 2, Victory Commander Rourke. A soft whisper moved through the crowd. Zarevith turned slowly to look at him. You delay, you guess, and yet you win. Rourke replied calmly. I don't guess. I listen before I act. Round 3, Morality. This time the test was painful. Both leaders were shown a scenario where they could save one group or another. No third option, a shuttle of scientists, or a station of families. One must be sacrificed. Zarevith chose the scientists. Cold logic. She spoke clearly. They can create tools to protect more lives in the future. Their loss would weaken the Empire. Rourke chose the families. Quietly, he said, life isn't just about surviving, it's about who we survive for. The AI judges did not declare a winner. Instead, they said, Round 3, draw. During the break between rounds, Rourke walked alone in the quiet garden of Daleth. Stars shone overhead, and soft alien music played through the air. Zarevith approached him not in armor now, but a long cloak made of dark silk. You surprise me, Commander, she said. You speak like a philosopher, but you command like a warrior. Rourke smiled slightly. And you speak like a warrior. But I think there's more to you than that. She tilted her head. You see me as more than a weapon. Yes, Rourke said. I think you're a leader who's had to rule with fear, because you never saw another way. Zarevith looked away. Fear keeps order. Without it, chaos grows. Rourke looked up at the stars, or maybe ... Trust grows. Round 4, Diplomacy. This time, both were given the same mission. Convince a stubborn alien race, the Terralons, to join an alliance. The Terralons were neutral, proud, and hard to impress. Zarevith used strength. She offered protection, power, and position. She promised them a seat in her empire's ruling council and a shield from any threat. Rourke used understanding. He listened to their history, honored their culture, and offered friendship without demands. He asked what they needed. The soft glow of Deleth's twin moons filled the crystal arena as the 4th round came to an end. The Terralons had chosen. Not strength, not fear, but respect. Round 4, Victory Commander Elias Rourke, announced the AI judge. There was a pause. Then a wave of whispers spread through the watchers, diplomats, leaders, and representatives from across the stars. Some were surprised, others were amazed, but Queen Zarevith stood still, unmoving, her forearms crossed. Her expression showed nothing, yet deep inside, something was changing. She was losing. Later, in her private chamber on the royal barge orbiting, Daleth Zarevith stood before a long mirror of polished obsidian. Her crown rested on the table beside her. Lord Kavax, her most trusted advisor, waited near the entrance. Your Majesty, the 5th round begins in one cycle. I am aware, she replied calmly. Kavax hesitated. If I may ask, why did you agree to these rules? To duel a human on equal terms? Zarevith turned to him slowly. Because I believed it would be easy. I believed that by defeating him in a test of thought, I would prove humans weak. And now? He asked softly. Now, she said, looking back into the mirror, I am no longer sure who is being tested. On the human side, Commander Elias Rourke prepared for the final round. He sat alone in a quiet room, watching stars flicker across a display. Arya Chen entered with a datapad in hand. The final challenge is ready. The theme is creativity. Rourke looked over at creativity. She nodded. They want both. A view to present a vision for the future, what peace between virulence and humans could look like. Not war, not power. A dream, Rourke said thoughtfully. Yes, Arya said, but you should know. If she loses this round, she loses the duel completely. That might be too much for her pride. Rourke stood and took a deep breath. Then I'll have to speak to more than just her mind, he said. I'll have to reach her heart. The arena was quiet when the two leaders met again. The audience leaned forward in silence as the final round began. Round 5, Creativity. A white platform rose in the center. The rules were simple. Both leaders would have 10 minutes to present their vision for peace. Using words, images, or anything they wished. Queen Zarevith went first. Tar hologram appeared over the arena, shimmering gold and blue. It showed vast cities ruled by order. Ships patrolled peacefully. Alien races worked together under her empire's flag. Peace through strength. Unity through discipline, harmony through rule. When she finished, many aliens nodded. It was a strong vision, a powerful future. Then it was Rourke's turn. He stepped into the center alone. He had no armor, no great light, only a small control panel in his hand. He pressed a button, and a simple scene appeared. A child, human, walking through a field under two suns. The child met a Virulon youth. They looked at each other, different shapes, different languages. But then, slowly, they began to build something together. A kite, made of metal and silk. It rose into the air, carried by the wind. Then more figures appeared. Tyrellans, Corellians, even Virellans, all helping build something greater, a new home, a city, a shared world. No flags, Rourke said softly. No empires. Just cooperation. Just life. The crowd was still. The AI voice spoke. Final round victory, Commander Elias Rourke. There was no applause, no cheering, just silence. A silence filled with possibility. Later that evening, Rourke stood alone on the open terrace of the Daleth embassy. Stars twinkled in the black sky. He expected the Queen to leave quickly, as most rulers would after defeat, but she singled quotes to dot instead. She came to him. Zareveth wore a long cloak of blue and black. No armor, no crown. Only her eyes held the power of her empire. You have won, she said calmly. I have lost. Rourke nodded. It wasn't a war, but it was a battle, she said. And I underestimated your kind. He turned to face her. Why did you come? She looked up at the stars. To understand. I have ruled by fear for centuries. It worked, but today, I saw something else. She paused. You humans, you do not win by being the strongest. You win by being impossible to predict. One moment you are soft, the next, sharp. You confuse even me. We survive by adapting, Rourke said. Our world taught us that. Then perhaps, she said quietly, there is more to learn from you than I thought. He looked at her carefully. Will there be peace now? She hesitated, then slowly extended one hand, clawed regal, yet open. If I offer it, she said, will your kind accept it? Rourke reached out and took her hand. We already have. The news of the Queen's defeat spread across the stars, but no one laughed, no one mocked, because this was not humiliation. This was a turning point. The Virelin Empire slowly began to change, not with weapons, but with choices. Zareveth made new agreements, shared resources, listened more. Not all virulence liked it, but many did, and over time, even the cold halls of the Empire began to warm. Back on Earth, Elias Rourke stood before the United Council. The room was full, the mood serious. The Queen still rules, one senator said, but she now listens. That's new. Another asked, did we win? Rourke smiled softly. No, we didn't win. We connected, and that might be more important. Far away, on her throne ship, Queen Zareveth looked at a small object on her desk. A simple Madola kite, made of metal and silk, a gift from a human child. She touched it gently, then she whispered to herself, not as a queen, but as someone, discovering something new perhaps. This is what strength truly is. 2 months had passed since the duel on Daleth, across the galaxy. Something unusual was happening, something that had not happened in hundreds of years. Worlds that once prepared for war were now preparing for dialogue. Borders once drawn in fear were now being opened with curiosity. And at the center of it all were 2 names, Queen Zareveth of the Virelin Empire and Commander Elias Rourke of Earth. But peace, like any living thing, had to be protected and nurtured. It did not grow easily, and not everyone believed in it, Commander. Rourke stood on the bridge of the human diplomatic ship Aurora Spear, gazing at a screen showing the Virelin homeworld. The planet was a swirl of dark blues and metallic silver, covered in tall spires and glowing oceans. Hard to believe they once called us primitive apes, said Lieutenant Arya Chen with a small smile. They still might, Rourke replied, but maybe now it's with a bit more respect. Their ship had been invited to Varela Prime for the first Intergalactic Unity Summit. It was the first time Earth had been invited to speak as equals alongside the most powerful civilizations. The humans were ready, but not everyone was happy. Queen Zareveth stood on the highest tower of her palace, overlooking the capital city. The streets were full of celebration banners of both Virelin and Earth colors. Flew side by side, yet her advisors warned her of whispers. Some of her generals believed she had grown soft, others thought peace was temporary, and humans could not be trusted. Even Lord Cavax, her oldest advisor, had grown cold. You invited humans into our heart, Cavax had said days earlier. You opened our gates not with warriors, but with words. That is dangerous, Zareveth replied calmly, and yet, not one drop of blood has been spilled since I did. Still, she knew the danger was real. Not all enemies came from the outside. As the summit began, leaders from dozens of alien civilizations gathered in the Grand Hall of Unity. The walls sparkled with ancient light, and the air was filled with hundreds of different languages, translated instantly by humming devices. Commander Rourke stepped onto the central stage. He looked calm, but his heart beat quickly. This was not just a meeting, it was history being written. He began to speak. Not Long ago, my people were seen as wild, as unworthy, but humanity is more than just history and conflict. We are also builders, dreamers, survivors, and now we are learners too. He paused, then turned slightly toward the queen, seated in her high seat. I thank Queen Ziravith for showing us not just the strength of the Virulent Empire, but the strength to listen. There was silence, then applause. Soft at first, but growing louder. Ziraveth stood, her forearms lifted slightly in a formal gesture, and then she spoke. In our past, we ruled through command. We expected others to follow. But today we choose a new way, one where voice meets voice, and no hand is forced. I offer my respect, not just to Earth, but to the courage of any world that chooses peace. The applause became a storm. In that moment peace felt real, but peace was not safe yet. That night, Rourke sat with Arya Chen on a balcony overlooking the glowing capital. Music played in the streets. A virulent child ran past, laughing with a human boy. Their parents stood nearby, talking with friendly smiles. This is what it's about, Arya said softly. Not power, just people living. Rourke nodded, but his eyes stayed sharp. He had seen movements like this in the past. Hope, followed by fear. If peace stood tall, someone would try to break it, and he was right. The next morning, during the final ceremony of the summit, the lights in the grand hall flickered. A shadow moved behind the queen's seat. Then another. Rebels. Vir soldiers, in dark armor stormed in, led by none other than Lord Cavax. The queen has failed the empire, he shouted. She has made us weak by kneeling to humans. Ziraveth stood quickly, her eyes fierce. I have made us strong by giving our people a future. Cavax raised a control device. Then your future ends now. But before he could press it, Rourke stepped forward. No, he said firmly. You'll have to go through me first. Cavax laughed cruelly. You think you matter, human? Don't just matter. I changed the course of your empire. With words, with reason. That's what scares you. Behind Rourke, Virelin guards moved in loyal to the queen. The rebels were surrounded. Ziraveth spoke clearly, her voice echoing. This summit is not just about humans. It is about us all choosing a better way. If you reject that future, you do not belong in it. Cavax growled but dropped the device. The guards took him into custody. The danger had passed. For now, later that day, in a quiet chamber, Queen Ziraveth met Rourke in private. You knew someone would try to stop this, she said. I've seen it before, he replied. Old minds fear new ideas. She studied him for a moment, then reached into a case beside her and pulled out a small object, a silver medal. It shined with both the Earth and Virulent emblems. I offer this not as a ruler to a guest, she said, but as an equal to an equal. Rourke took it with quiet pride. We've both changed, haven't we? He said. Ziraveth gave a small smile, rare and full of meaning. We've both evolved. Months later, the Earth-Virelin alliance would become one of the most respected in the galaxy. Trade routes opened, research was shared, new discoveries were made together and across distant stars. Children from both worlds played, worked, and dreamed side by side. No longer enemies, not just allies, but partners in the great story of the galaxy. And it all began with one bold meeting, one unexpected duel, and one human who didn't back down when a queen warned him. Do you know the consequences of messing with me, human? Yes, he knew. And in the end, the consequence was peace.